Hello?
Hey girl.
You guys will not believe this.
No, I don't want to touch on.
I told you guys I fall in love fast.
The look on your face, you're like, ooh.
Very healthy to have female friendships.
And completely
yeah, I do want to get married
ghost
again.
me
And I
on
love
this
that.
effing
So finding that
flight
balance
bus still
of,
desires
I think
to
having
get
this
married.
hand
Super,
where
like,
really
get rid of
having
toxic
Wasn't
people
ever
in
really
the
in
beginning.
pain and part of it.
Welcome back.
to three-way call.
With Britt Fallon Star.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How are we this evening?
Very good. Mine is
Yes.
the fact that you guys opening an Amazon package cut my finger open.
Oh
And I was
no.
just making fun of my husband. He did the same thing 2 weeks ago on his thumb. And I was laughing at him. And then it happened to me tonight. And I'm like, I'm throwing these scissors away.
That's what you get, girl.
Oh, you cut them on scissors?
Yeah, because I was using the scissors to open the package. I'm looking for a hairstyle for my birthday and for Saturday's dinner. And I'm like, my finger is dead. But
Yeah,
I say this because no way.
yeah, not on Amazon package though, on Armani's food can.
I cut my finger too on the yogurt.
Oh my God.
And it's been hurting ever since. It was like 4 days ago too. I was like,
You cut
cool.
yours on.
The yogurt container, which sounds crazy, right? I was like, this is crazy. All I did was like slide my finger around there and it sliced it on the like the metal like thing that covers it.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I did to Armani's food can. I like twisted my finger in it to like scoop his food out, and it just sliced my knuckle.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy, you guys.
But I bring this up because I know we're going to be talking about cycle and period pain. And the only thing I thought as we were getting started today, because I went to go change my cup, hopefully that's not TMI for the ladies, but I was like, this is the hand I used to change my cup. Like, oh my God. And so I put it off till after, because that's going to be a mission.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You have to learn how to use your other hand this time around.
But I'm excited to hear your suggestions for the ladies.
Me too. And it's ironic too because I just started getting cramps like 2 hours ago, and I have no idea why because I literally got my period like 11 days ago. So I'm like, why do I have cramps right now? It's like totally random.
Well, I
how
was gonna
crazy.
say because usually you guys are right before me, so I'm like the timing is.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know why I have cramps. They just literally came out of nowhere. So, and I just feel bloated. I don't know.
We're very synced right now because I'm day 12, so
hmm Yeah, you and I usually are on our period at the same time because we get it with the moon.
we do get it with the moon. Yeah, so what exactly do you guys want to know about period pain or periods in general? What are your questions? What are your
Well, I'll say for me, I have been on birth control forever. I started going on birth control when I was 14. Funny story, my high school boyfriend, his mom was the one that put me on birth control. Yeah, put me on birth control in ninth grade because like him and I were definitely sexually active. Yes,
Really?
lots to be at 14. Yes, it sounds young, and I know that is young, but at the same time, I was a freshman in high school. I feel like that's kind of like average. I don't know.
So
But
we should do a poll on this because I was talking to Paul the other day about losing your virginity, and I was like, and being on birth control. I'll finish that story. Keep going.
okay, perfect. Yeah, so I was on birth control, and then I got off it once before. I can't remember. Maybe around like 30, I think, because that's when I got married. So I was on it for like 16 years straight. Got off of it for maybe, let's see, 2 years maybe. And then that's when I found out I had endometriosis. And then my doctor like recommended me going back on it. So then I went back on it for a couple more years, I think. And then I stopped taking it altogether in October of last year. So I've been off it for a few months now. And surprisingly, when I t got off of it in October, my period was kind of like all over the place. But surprisingly, the next month in November, I had a pretty regular period. Because some girls I hear when they get off birth control, it takes like months for their period to like regulate. And mine was pretty much normal the next month. And so now, ever since November, I get my period pretty much on the same day every month, maybe one day before or after, depending on, how long or short the month is. But I pretty much get it the same day for about the same amount of time. Um, but I will say, so the whole time I was on birth control, I never, ever, ever experienced cramps. So basically, most of my life, I never experienced cramps. Didn't know what those felt like. I literally had no sympathy for people who had cramps because on every time I would be at work, there would be at least like one or two girls that would be complaining about their cramps. They can't work, they can't do this, they can't do that. And I'm just thinking, like, excuses, you're just lazy, excuses, excuses, excuses. And then actually, when Star and I worked together, there was this other girl that I bartended with, and I'll never forget this night. She literally, it was like a crazy Friday or Saturday night, and we were bartending, and I was getting my ass handed to me, and she's literally sitting over the bar, like curled over, like, oh, my cramps, I'm so sorry. And I'm just thinking, really, bitch, like I am slammed right now. Like we got no time for cramps. I'm just thinking, and I just remember just talking so much shit. Like, are you kidding me? And then she ended up, she's like, I can't do this. I have to go home. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what? Like, this is ridiculous. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm like, this is just crazy. And then ever since then, I would just hear girls like, oh, yeah, especially, at work in the industry we're in, like girls would be like, oh, I'm getting my period, so I'm not going to be working these days. Well, I'm taking these days off. I'm not going to be here. And I'm like, are these girls for real? Like, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And then when I got off birth control, I had the worst cramps
Mhm.
ever, ever, like debilitating cramps. I
Mhm.
don't really get those anymore, I would say, but I still get cramps. But
Mhm.
I never had cramps on birth control, like ever, ever,
Yeah.
ever, ever. So I still get pretty intense cramps, but not like debilitating cramps. But it made me feel bad for everyone that I was like running my mouth on because I'm like, wow, this is some gnarly pain. Like some days I can't even get out of bed, and I'm like, that I understand,
Mhm.
why they were, but I feel like that's not normal, right, Britt?
Right. It's not, and for you, like having endometriosis, that is what it's like for women who have endometriosis, that
Mhm.
really debilitating pain. If you don't have endometriosis and you're having debilitating pain, that is not normal. But it is, yeah, it's extremely common, which is unfortunate, because no one tells you that could be better. Everyone just tells you like that's how it is. That's being a woman, and and being put on birth control at such a young age too is like, why are these things why is all of that so normal and common to here's birth control, you just have to deal with the pain, this is what it is, instead of like, oh, actually, you don't have to be in pain every month. You can help reduce that pain with proper and literally nourishment, with proper detoxification pathways, like all those kinds of things. So it is sad, but it is funny that you were like, you guys suck for not working. I heard, and you're like, no, this hurts so bad.
Mhm.
But there's a few different reasons we can have like painful periods. Just it as a jet in general speaking, not like condition speaking. Fibroids and endometriosis, things like that can cause that to be more painful, um, but or exacerbate the symptoms, I should say. So there's a few things. We could have like estrogen dominance, which is very common. It's a very common hormonal imbalance. It just means that estrogen is higher relative to progesterone, which means we have low progesterone. That can cause like the uterine wall, the lining, to get like really thick. So then when you're having those cramps or the inflammatory process, which I'll explain that too, it's causing contractions to shed the lining. Those contractions are going to be more intense because you have more thickness to like get rid of, so the body's like, okay, we've got a lot to break through here, kind of thing. So that can cause heightened symptoms during that time, and that would be leading up to and during and like your period. Again, with that low progesterone, which is an anti-inflammatory, so not having that in that time too, the both things can cause that higher inflammatory response because that's what's happening. Um, so I'll just explain that really quick. When progesterone and estrogen drop right before your period, that signals for prostaglandins to be released. We have prostaglandins for every part of the body. So those are released to shed the uterine lining. That's what causes the inflammatory response in the uterus, um, which is what the cramps come from. Now, prostaglandins are derived from are made up of like both inflammatory and anti-inflammatory. We need both of them. We need the inflammatory to like do the job, and then the anti-inflammatory to kind of be like, okay, not too much, not too much pain. We just want the process to go. Unfortunately, most Americans are more inflammatory. We have more just inflammation in the body. This is the main thing I come back to that's helped majority of the women that I work with reduce period pain because it's simple and it's not simple, but it comes down to like your nourishment. These prostaglandins are derived from our fat intake, our omega-6, omega-3 intake. So the average American is 20 to 1 ratio, which is very high. We should be closer to a 2 to 1 ratio. Yeah, so it's a very significant difference. Um, so just watching that, bringing that down, bringing the omega-6 down, bringing the omega-3 up to meet in that balanced space. We are not fear-mongering either fats because we need both of those fats, but we just need them in more balance, right? Like in the foods we eat, which is why I always recommend grass-fed beef and butter and things like that, because there's studies done that show, feedlot meat is higher, closer to that 20 to 1 range, whereas like grass-fed is closer to 4 to 1 range. Same with eggs and things like that. So just the quality of our food really matters when it comes to that inflammatory space. So that was a lot. I want to just take a break here and like let you guys ask any questions about that really quick.
Mm. Star, you have any questions on that?
Oh, I was like, what was that? No, 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 that's all making sense, especially with diet. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good
Okay,
refresh.
cool. So that's like the main one. That and estrogen dominance are like probably the two main things or the most common things that I feel like people get these painful periods from. And then of course there's always going to be like those other things like blood sugar dysregulation. Again, that can cause systemic inflammation, high cortisol or cortisol issues that can cause the same thing. It also in different ways can cause other stuff, right? With stress, we can quite literally block progesterone production. So that could put us in that low progesterone, high estrogen state. And then our gut health and our liver detoxification pathways, which we have pathway 1, 2, and 3, and 3 would be getting it out of the body. So supporting the liver, making sure that everything's working well. You're having a bowel movement every single day, clearing that stuff out, because if not, estrogen can recirculate into the body, and then you're again in that more estrogen dominant state. Sorry. And then, of course, the conditions, the fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, um, the those that pain already that's already inflammatory caused, like that's there. And then if we have excess estrogen, if we have, we already kind of know you have more inflammation in the body, those are going to make that more painful. That's where we hear a lot of women who are just in pain for weeks, usually leading up to and during their period, very debilitating, throwing up on the, they're on the floor in the bathroom, they're passing out from pain. That's like great, and if you don't have any of those conditions and you're doing those things, then that something is very, very wrong and you should really get looked at. And I think that's always my biggest sign to like, please advocate for yourself to check for those conditions when you're in that much pain. I think I like to see a mild discomfort. I'd like you to be able to like live life and know it's happening and feel it's because it's still, the process is still happening. It's not there. It's not going to be zero pain.
Mhm.
You're going to know something is going on in your uterus, usually. Um, but I like to see it where it's more like it's just a mild pain, maybe just need some tea, some warmth on the womb to like get through it. But I don't want to see any of my clients in the fetal position on the floor for a few days because they're in pain, they can't do anything, they can't go to work, that kind of thing. Granted, I'm always going to advocate for like, we still have to go through this process, and I don't think that that's like means we have to go and bust our asses every single day. You know what I mean? Like we are still different, built different, and I think we should take care of our bodies during our periods very much. Like let that process happen and honor that process because I think it's a beautiful process, but you know, there's that societal part of it, which is women are just gonna have to deal with it, go to work, be moms, take care of the house, do all these things in pain. Mm.
Hmm.
And so there is that part where I'm just like, even if it's mild pain, I feel like we should be allowed to take a step back, allowed to nourish our bodies and nurture our bodies and take care of them for that time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, what are some more like regular symptoms that we should be experiencing during that time?
During the period, symptoms in general, not pain wise, you mean?
Yeah, just in general. Well, and pain, what like just mild cramps you're
Yeah,
mentioning.
just mild. You don't want to see excessively heavy bleeding. Um, you don't want to see giant blood clots. If it's bigger than a quarter, that's a little bit too much. And then how often that's happening, those would be some really bigger signs maybe to look at. You want to lead, most symptoms people have as far as PMS goes, like premenstrual symptoms, or they're leading up to the period. And then on the period, they might still feel some of those things, but typically those hormones are now just down. So you might feel a little bit more like yourself, but now most people are just in pain. So leading up to that, you want to look for like really excessive or major mood swings, um, irritability, that bloating. If it's really intense bloating, I think that you can have some bloating just because of what is actually happening in the body. But if it's really excessive bloating, that's something to look at. Um, those would be the main things, I think. I think back to like the very like early years of my cycle. And we'll get to the birth control part too, but I remember being put on birth control and just randomly crying for no reason in the middle of class one day, and that is a symptom of the hormonal imbalance that was starting to happen in my body. Um, so so looking at that now, and if we get more emotional, that phase of our cycle or luteal phase is a more emotional phase, and we are constantly again told to do so many things during that phase when our bodies are like in protection mode. So our bodies are like, no, we're here to protect. And we're just like, well, we can't help you because we have to work and we have to do all those things. And then we have those symptoms as well. So not only could it be hormonal, it could also just be the fact that we are overdoing it in those phases of our cycle. So those are some things to look out for. Things to help period pain. If it is mild or like even just a little bit more mild, but not super concerning, I would say the womb loves to be warm in the luteal phase and during your period. It also helps with blood flow, blood circulation, and things like that. So, warm soups, warm teas, we love sipping on our tea. Red raspberry leaf tea is amazing for your period. Cramp bark is as well. So sometimes I'll mix those two if I feel like I want a little extra, or if I'm giving that recommendation to my client, I say a cramp bark and a red raspberry leaf tea together would be good. Um, those are my favorite go-to teas. You can do, I mean, any calming tea just to warm the womb. You could do red light on the womb. If you have to do a heating pad, just be careful. If you have excessive pain, I feel like people go really hard on the heating pad and that can just cause burns and stuff on your body. You see that a lot because they're like, well, that's taking away the other pain, right? So just be careful with the heating pads or like water pads, like those water ones that are filled with hot water and stuff like that. Be careful putting that on your wound for too long. Light movement. I think that a lot of people feel strong, great, fantastic. Go to the gym. Don't overdo it because your body's still doing a lot. I would say if you feel like you can do a lot, just make sure you're resting afterwards and taking care of your body afterwards. Go sit in a bath for a little while, and then also make sure you're really, really nourishing if you are going a little bit harder in the gym because you're feeling that energy. Really nourish your body after because what your body's doing is taking a lot of energy as well. So now you're either taking energy away from that process, which can cause more inflammation to it. So I like to always say, like, if you're going to move, move gently to get blood flowing because it also does help with inflammation. It's kind of like that, like, rock in a hard place thing or double-edged sword or whatever, where you can overdo it, but if you do it right, it will help
Mm.
actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I do like to go. I mean, I go to the gym on day one almost every single time unless it's a rest day.
Yeah, I love that, Britt. That's all such good information. And you were touching on the workouts, because there's obviously like I've heard different types of workouts you should be focusing on during your cycle, right? Some are going to be more high intense, some are going to be more like yoga, more soft. Is that right? Pretty much like lining
Um,
up the cycle or
that's a thing out there. So this lady kind of coined cycle syncing a long time ago. She wrote a book about it. And in that book, it really does talk about like strength train during this time, do cardio during this time, do yoga during this time, don't do anything during this time kind of thing. And that's raised a lot of like, what? You know what I mean? Especially for like us who do work out and we lift and we like, are in that space. It's kind of like whatever. So for me personally, I have a slightly different take on it. I like to lift throughout my entire cycle. I recommend women to lift throughout their entire cycle. Do I think that we have different, I call them powers. I don't know why. I just like, to me, it's powerful, like the different hormones going through us. So can we optimize different parts of our cycle? Yes, we can. Estrogen's anabolic, so I like to go a lot harder in my follicular phase and my ovulatory phase because I want to build muscle. And we are also a little bit more high energy, and more stress resistant, so we can do more HIIT, we could do more cardio, we could take on a little bit more on our bodies. And then in the luteal phase, progesterone does take over and has a calming effect on our bodies. So a lot of women don't feel as strong, but it doesn't mean you can't still like be building and like utilizing your muscles. So I just change variables in that time. I do a lot of time under tension with my clients and myself because I want the full contraction of the muscle to happen. But what I've found, and this is, I'm not a scientist, but like this is just what I've found, and I have a plan to test this in real life. So I'm really excited about that. But um, you can you can do the same, like say you just did whatever weight you did in your follicular phase with whatever reps, and it felt really good. You're like, wow, that was like right to the muscle. You feel the burn, all that stuff. And then you hit the same thing the next week. You're in your luteal phase now, and you just like cannot feel it in that muscle. You're like, what the heck? You feel weak now. You can't lift the same weight. And granted, you probably can't lift the same weight. But if you slow down that movement, you can actually, recruit the entire muscle again. And so I like to do the time under tension during that time. And honestly, sometimes those are my favorite lifts ever. They're super juicy. I get like really like pumped with those lifts and I end up feeling stronger sometimes during those lifts than I do when I'm just in my follicular ovulatory phase because I am going slower and I feel like, holy crap, that was amazing. Like I feel so good after those. But yes, if you wanted to, though, that's that phase of your cycle does require more restoration. So doing those yoga flows that are just kind of like Zen, like, are really great. Um, I don't I don't say like go ahead and do HIIT during that time because most of my clients are already high stress. So I
mm,
don't want them stressing more with doing like HIIT during that time. But yeah, I like to change it those ways. And then person to person, if you don't really like enjoy lifting and you wanted to change your movement to those phases, that's great. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. So that's my take on it though. So I call that align your lifts. That's my align your lifts method.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I see a lot of like, obviously the cycle syncing is kind of trending online right now. And I think it's so interesting how some people are so far left and then other people are so far right. So something I do with my clients is really figure out like what's going to be good for your body if you have the energy. Obviously, we're not going to try to overdo it, but I typically have more energy on my cycle too when it starts, and so I'm like, I've hit PRs during my cycle, but then I know exactly the recovery just needs to be 10 times more intentional. So it's like find what works best for you if you are having those really heavy cycles, which don't get me wrong, every once in a while, these fibroids, they mess up, which you were talking about, Britt, the weeks leading up to, I've had those periods of like 10 days before my cycle. I'm just in so much pain. But it's one of those things where I'm like realigning what's causing the inflammation, what I'm eating, what I'm putting into my on my body, all the things we've talked about before. It's been helpful, but then every time if I'm like, shoot, this month I've had a bad cycle or something leading up to it, then I'm like, what did I do different?
Yeah.
But I do like that cycle syncing phenomenon because it's like so many people are so passionate about it, and then other people are like, throw
Yeah.
it out the window.
Yeah, I think that I don't think anyone should necessarily dismiss it. It does come back to you and your body. And I call it like body literacy is really going to be the key thing. So my align your lifts method only works if we know we're tracking your cycle. We see consistently over time how you feel during each one, and if we can change variables to best suit your cycle. Um, like again, I'm the same too. Like I felt so strong on my period. Like it's great. Like I love it. I'm like, this is fantastic. But at the same time, I know, okay, even if I go home and I eat this, this, and this, I'm probably going to feel the effects of this because it's draining me in a couple days. And
Mhm.
in a couple days, my estrogen's going to be climbing and I'm more anabolic. So would I rather rest on day 1 or 2 or take it a little easier on day 1 or 2 and have the effects of estrogen in my favor a little bit more in a few days? I'll usually do that. I'll just be like, okay, I'm just going to take it easy at the gym. I still lift. I mean, probably I'm taking it like this much easier, but you know what I mean? Like, so it's the same thing with my clients. If they're like, you know what, I want to rest today, I'm great. Go for a walk. That's your movement for the day. Go do, whatever you need to do, but make sure I do just say like make sure you are moving because it's going to help,
Yeah,
that.
it really does.
Yeah, it really does. But then, then they go hard for the rest of the week and they feel great. And then I have, seen girls who are like athletes on there. They're like at the gym, they're in pain, like hunching over in pain on their period, and they're like going ham at the same time. To me, I'm like, probably where it's like a little bit, you should just listen to it for just a second,
Mhm.
but that's it.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you and I, stars like coaches, we really want like our clients to understand their bodies and their selves. And I think that's a big thing that's missing with those like far to the left, far to the right, because it's like what you're missing the fact that these are just people too, like, and they have their own bodies and their own lives and things like that. So it's just a big key
Mhm.
factor.
And they take these big, huge stances a lot of times because they're trying to get the views and the shares and all the things. So it's like I'm very much to the individual and finding balance in my coaching and mindset. So I'm like, I'm not trying to blow up the internet over here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that's just good for us because we're going to attract those people who want that kind of coaching.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. But to take it to the birth control, because I know you wanted to talk a little bit about that as well.
yes, but I did
Uh,
have a couple more questions on the period,
oh, okay, yeah.
real quick before we move over. One, isn't your pain tolerance like a lot? well, I don't want to say, is it high? No, it's not higher. It's like less on your period. Like, for example, people were saying, like, oh, if you go to get wax on your period, like you're way more sensitive down there as opposed to if you got waxed when you're not on your period.
Your sensitivity could change down there. Again, I think that's very individual. We're most like, I'll put it this way, we are most like men on our periods. So however you think men feel with pain, they're babies. They're babies. But like you've seen the videos where like the men have like the little thing on their stomachs and then it's like to mimic painful
Mm-hmm.
periods and it's like
Cramp.
on setting one and they're like, oh God,
No.
So yeah, I'd say like we're probably a little bit more sensitive during that time. But and everyone's pain tolerance is different. Like my mild, what I think is mild might be very painful to someone
Yeah.
or, nothing to someone. So that's individual, I think, to me. Yeah.
Okay. And then how normal is like spotting before and after your period?
That's a good question because that's important. If you're spotting more than like a few days before your period, then I would look into it. That's more like a low progesterone type situation going on. It's normal to spot, and I just shouldn't say, I like to use like a healthy cycle would be no more than a few days of spotting
Before.
before. And then kind of this varies for the after part too, because everyone's like uterus is different too. Your uterus shifts throughout your cycle as well, like changes. I mean, so subtle unless you're really always checking your uterus, but um, it tilts or doesn't tilt. And then some people have like a tilted pelvis, and so blood flow sometimes doesn't like come out quite the same. So spotting might last a little bit longer, but you wouldn't again want to see that for more than a few days after like blood stops. And then what color is that? Is it just like is it brown? Is it dry? Older or drier blood? That kind of thing you want to look at. But if it's like pink spotting just trailing along for several days, you would want to just keep an eye on that. How many cycles has it been doing that for? Same with the pre thing is how many cycles. If it's just one off that you're having like 5 days of spotting before your period, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's happening every cycle, I would look into it.
Okay.
Like as in go get your blood work done or see a specialist about it.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought up the color because that was going to be my next question for you. Like what type of color should our blood be? Does it change throughout our cycle? Should it just be one color? Can you-
It can change. It can change. So like even spotting leading up to could be darker if it's older blood, maybe left from your previous cycle. If it's pink, that's probably like newer. But actual period should be a shade of crimson. Am I saying that word right? Crimson or Chrisman? Because we have a
Crimson.
street. Crimson, okay. Because we
Yeah,
have a street, right? Is the
we
street Crimson?
do.
Yeah, street is Chrisman, I think.
Okay, yeah, the
Okay,
street's Crimson.
crimson.
Okay, so the color's crimson.
Yeah.
So a shade of crimson red. So
Okay.
like cherry, currant, that kind of thing. If it's purple or like dark colors, that could be um, that well, if it's brown, I should say if it's brown, it's more of a slow moving, those darker colors. Purple usually is two, but if it's any weirder colors than that, would look into that as well.
Okay.
And then again, that trailing off spotting stuff should be that lighter pink, and if it is that more brown color, it's just maybe slow moving blood coming out or older blood moving.
Because I will say my period for a while has been, I mean, not like my last few periods, but leading up to my last few periods, my period has been like some funky colors. Like it has been dark, like dark brown. It's been like I don't want to say like chunky, but definitely clotty. And then I remember my doctor telling me like that's part of my endometriosis, saying like
Yeah.
my blood is gonna be like that. So I just assumed that was from my endo, but I will say, because I've been really paying attention to it in the last few months, it hasn't been that, and it's been like cherry red.
Perfect.
Yeah, which I'm like,
I love to hear that.
yeah, I know. I was so excited to see it. I was like,
You're like, oh
perfect.
yeah.
Because it had been so long that it was not like that. And, to me, I'm like, okay, well, I feel like it shouldn't look like this. My doctor's telling me that's like normal, quote unquote, for me, for my endo, but it's like, I don't know. It just gave me like a sign like, oh, like, am I healing myself? Like,
Mhm.
so yeah, I was
Sure.
happy.
Good.
Yeah, you are. I mean that, yeah, that if it's especially if it's been consistent, I love to hear that. If yeah, the clots again, I think if they're very clotty or they're big clots, that's a concern. If it's that super deep dark thing, it could be again an estrogen thing, and also depends what's coming out, like how much tissue is coming out. And again, with the endo, adeno, the fibroids, even I assume I'm not sure about the fibroids to be honest, but endo and adeno for sure. That tissue that's just kind of coming out could just be a little bit different. But circulation, I would say too, it plays a role in the blood loss and the blood color. So make again that movement.
Mm.
Um, and the warmth on the womb can really help. So those are some things you can try if you think that your blood color is kind of funky. Try that for a time. See if your next, preemptively do it. You know your period's coming up. Start to already have those warm teas. Start to already get the womb warm, having those soups and those things like that, and see if that helps at all with the circulation, the blood flow going into your period. Um,
That's a great
that just
idea.
helps.
I
Thanks.
like that idea, the pre-prep. But also, that's so sweet, Val. Like you're like noticing your body is like healing, your mental, physical. Now that,
Yes, it is. Hallelujah, Jesus.
yeah,
Thank you. Like,
you're like
it's
seeing
time.
visions.
Yes.
And also, I've been more active the last couple months, which,
I
I
was
didn't
gonna
even think
say,
about that, Britt, until you said that. So I'm like, that probably has a lot to do with it too.
Hmm.
yeah, as she was talking, I was like, and you've been going to your yoga and moving, so it's all coming together.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now birth control.
Yeah, birth control. Um, yeah, when you said 14 and then you were on it for 16 years, so
Uh-huh.
we'll just start at the beginning real quick on that because birth control is handed out like candy to young women. I mean, it's handed out like candy in general, but I think it irritates me the most that it's handed out to young women for anything. It's for whether or not they're sexually active, it's for acne, it's for weight, it's for, their painful periods, whatever it is. It's always given out under this guise that it will fix whatever the issue is. It will balance your hormones, and that's not what it does. And why it bothers me so much from a young age standpoint is that there is a communication pathway from your brain to your ovaries that stops. And it's needed because that communication gets stronger and stronger and stronger as you grow up. So now you've stopped it with birth control, and then you try to get off it years later, whenever, you want to have, usually when you want to have a baby, right? And your brain's like, well, what the fuck? Like, we don't know how to do this. We don't know how to talk to your ovaries. And that's why people get off, and then their periods are crazy, their cycles are crazy. And then they're like, well, shit, I don't want to deal with that. And then they get back on because they haven't developed that communication between the brain and the ovaries yet. So, that just drives me like a little bit crazy, but that's fine. So, and even now, that's still handed out like candy with women who have acne, women who have the painful periods. A lot of it has to do with that. A lot of it has to do with they don't feel like themselves in their luteal phase either. Which again, all these things are like hormonal imbalances that aren't being addressed, and then they're just band-aided with the birth control. There's several different kinds of birth control. They do different things. I'd say the most common one is the oral pill, the pill. Um, that one and the Nexplanon. You guys heard about the one that they implant into your arm?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so those release or contain, I should say, progestin, which is a synthetic form of progesterone. It is not the same as progesterone that you make in your body. Um, and it doesn't do the same thing in the body. However, it makes your body think that you have already, ovulated or produced progesterone, so it skips ovulation. That's how it prevents pregnancy. You do not ovulate when you're on those types of birth control. Um, and it essentially just flatlines your hormones. So even if you have progesterone, if you looked at it, it would just be like this. So it's flatlining your hormones, and that's what they call balance, which is not. Progesterone should be peaking up and estrogen should be up here, and they should just be happy sisters playing. And they don't. So over time, even being on birth control, you can have hormonal imbalances because we produce like estrogen from different places too. Or again, if we're not detoxifying enough, then we kind of typically put people into an estrogen dominant state, even if there's not a lot of estrogen, because that progesterone is not being produced with those birth controls. So then they also eventually might experience the same symptoms or, just in a different way. And then if you get off the birth control, again, that signal has to come back online and it could take some time. And depending on how well you took care of your body before you got off of it, will determine like how well or quickly you kind of get back into a regular cycle. And the same kind of thing, well, similar way, we have the IUD. I had an IUD for 8 years. Before that, I was on the pill, and well, I think I tried like two different birth controls in high school. I wasn't even sexually active at the time. I did try the pill, and then also I think I did a shot, but I faintly remember. So, but I for sure remember the pill. And then when after I had Paisley, I went on the IUD, the Mirena, for 8 years. So the Mirena, the Skyla, I think, I don't even know the other names of them, but the IUD, that not besides the copper one, so the hormonal IUDs, they just make it uninhabitable in the uterus. So if an egg comes along, it can't implant into the uterine wall because it makes it essentially like barren in there. Um, a lot of women don't have periods on that because it doesn't directly necessarily stop ovulation. Well, it's not supposed to. That the whole concept was that it wasn't supposed to. It's just supposed to stop the egg from implanting. But a majority of women do not ovulate.
Mm.
So then like they don't have a period. Some women have like a faint little like withdrawal because you might still be withdrawing that those hormones, but not necessarily ovulating and then having a period because a period happens when you have ovulation. So anything else is just a withdrawal bleed, essentially. And then the copper IUD, it also works by without it's non-hormonal, but it works by basically making that space toxic for an egg. Yeah, so it's not fun. The Nexplanon and the copper IUD are the two ones that I hear cause like excessive bleeding for the longest time. I had a client who got the implant and she was bleeding for months and she was like, fuck this, like I'm not doing that. And the same, I had several girls say, like, I tried the copper IUD, I was bleeding every 2 weeks, and they were like, oh, it'll balance out. And it took months, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And they would just get off of it. Copper IUDs also have the potential to be cause copper toxicity. So just none of them are without side effects, obviously. Um, there is a really great documentary I encourage everyone to watch. It's called The Business of Birth Control. It goes over all of this. It goes over the birth control industry, it goes over all of the things I'm talking about right now, but way more in depth. There's also a book called Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighton. Amazing. That's a great informative book as well if you're curious about those things. So that's the gist of like what birth control does in the body, none of which are balancing your hormones. So just to be very clear, none of these things balance your hormones. They completely override your body's natural hormone production. And I don't want to like put ton of hate on it because there's a time and a place, I think, for birth control. I think especially like in those conditions where endometriosis is so freaking debilitating, I would much rather put someone on birth control while they're working towards minimizing the issues at hand, minimizing the root cause, minimizing those symptoms so that when they come off of it again, they're fine or they're at least manageable. But if it's just like, oh, here, take this and never worry about that again, it's like that's where the issue for me personally comes along. And then, of course, I'm not naive to the fact that we are women and we live in this world that doesn't really, we don't know what's going to happen to us at any moment. That's just honest. Like, unfortunately, we have to live in that kind of fear to some degree. So I get why some women, I've talked to some women who are like, honestly, I'm afraid. Like, and we don't have the protections that we should have for those kinds of things to happen. So I take it for that reason because I'm afraid.
Mhm.
And I totally get that. So again, like, I just want women to understand what's actually happening, in the body, with the birth control, especially at the young age, being a mom, and knowing that these hormonal birth controls can cause depression and have and do for sure, especially in the younger, especially if you start them young, the younger you start them, like the higher your risk of depression and things like that is later on. So fun times, fun times.
Very good. I have a question for you. So you said you were on birth control in high school, but it wasn't because you're sexually active. So why did you start birth control?
Just in case, my mom said.
Mm.
Yeah, I was put on it just in case. And I think I was like, I want to say like 15 or 16. I didn't lose my virginity till I was 17.
Okay. Star, when did you go on birth control?
Not until probably like early mid 20s because
Oh.
yeah, because that was what I was going to say at the beginning of our pod. I was talking about losing virginity like ages with Huz because he's got three girls. And I was telling him like I don't think I'm the norm because I was 18 when I lost my virginity, but I remember all of my friends were on birth control and I was not because my parents' version of birth control was just scaring the shit out of me to not get pregnant. Otherwise, I'd get kicked out and be on my own. So I was like, I'm not doing that. So yeah, I was like, up until now, chatting with Britt, I was like, oh, never mind. I was like, maybe, if our daughter is sexually active, we do the birth control route. But now that's going to be probably a no, is what I'm learning. So, but yeah, so that's why I think this information is so valuable because in our heads, like they don't really like teach us this in everyday schooling. You just think, oh, birth control, but for don't get pregnant. And for me, my doctor wanted me to go on it for my cramps. So I think that's why I was on the NuvaRing though for like 4 years before I took it out. I forgot why I took it out, but yeah, and that shit's in the news, I think, for not being very good. So I
Yeah.
don't remember, but I remember people being like, NuvaRing is not good. I'm like, oh my God, I was on it for so long. I've never had any issues, but so my doctor, he tried to put me back on it maybe like 6, 7 years ago when I was telling him about my cramps before we found my fibroids. But I was competing and I was like, I cannot have weight gain. I know that's a side effect and I need to be 10%, boo. So that's not an option for me.
Yeah.
I haven't been
Yeah.
on it since. Yeah, it's been like probably 12 years.
Wow.
Hmm.
I've heard of people having sex and the NuvaRing coming out.
I think this was a thing. I think
Yeah, right?
it happened to me one time, actually. Yeah, because if you don't get it all the way up there, it's pretty accessible. And that's why I think the cup for me wasn't anything foreign when my girlfriend was like, you should try. I've heard the cup, this was 10 years ago. I heard the cup is great for cramps. So I was like, okay, awesome. Let me try this. And it worked for the first year, but now that's gone and passed. But I've recommended to some of my clients when they're like traveling and stuff and they don't want the tampon and they're very uncomfortable. And they're like, I just couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, oh, I can walk you through it. It's but to each his own. To each his own. But I loved that new ring.
They have they have, I think they're called like a mini pill now that and why they thought that I wanted the ad for this on my account, I have no idea, but way to piss me off every day. It's not every day, but if I see it, I'm like, this is crazy. It's always like someone like, I have a wedding in next week, so I'm taking this because I don't want to have my period, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
Oh, wait a minute. That was another thing. You're just reminding me with the new ring. We could control it.
you could
Oh my
control it.
God. Yes, that's exactly right. I would put it in early sometimes. I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, no, I can't have my cycle right now. I forgot about that. That's
Yeah, and that's the same concept. My friend who used to do the Nuva ring, she would be like, she would ask me one time, she was like, what would happen if I did blah blah blah? And I was like, well, it might not be anything crazy, but you are preventing your cycle, and it is going to probably come back with a vengeance later on if you take it out and you're just like normal again. And the same thing will happen if you take these little mini things to like skip your period on vacation, skip your period for this event or whatever. It's not without consequence. So it's still a hormonal thing happening. It's still causing something to not occur. I actually did this on accident once. So I'm a big experimenter
hmm
because I like to know what's going to happen if I take this, that, and the other before I ever like recommend it to anybody. I was taking progesterone, bioidentical progesterone, and I was talking to my doctor, and she said that there's a suppository kind that I could take if I wanted to try it. So I took it, and I didn't really think anything of it. My pill is bioidentical. This was not, I don't think, and I didn't realize it wasn't. Um, and she was like, you could take it whenever. And I thought that that was strange, but I was like, she's my doctor. Okay. So I take it before ovulation.
Hmm.
Okay. And that was my error. And it prevented me from ovulating, and I didn't have a cycle for 52 days. And
Oh,
so I was like, and
Yeah.
I knew exactly why. I was like, okay. And I remember too, and I didn't even take it for a full week. I took it for like 4 or 5 days and in my follicular phase, and I didn't ovulate. And then I was like reading the thing, and this is why I stopped because I read it and I was like, and it said a small amount of synthetic whatever progesterone was in it. And I was like, what the fuck? Who do you think you're
Wow.
telling this to? I was thinking she's just giving me bioidentical as well because we were already doing bioidentical. Um, I was like, no. So then that just a little bit stopped me from ovulating, and I did not ovulate again for 52 days. And I
Crazy.
was fine. I was fine. Like nothing really crazy happened. I think my period was a little bit more painful, but not anything crazy. But I was more irritated that that happened. And then at towards the end of that, I was getting more like my mood and my emotions and things were kind of getting like a little bit more out of my hands as opposed to just my body was just gonna do what it was gonna do. And when I ovulated, I was like, fuck it, thank God. I was like so I was like, never am I doing that again in my life. But yeah, so don't suggest that that's what it's doing. It's preventing your ovulation.
I, I totally forgot about that, Britt, until you gave me some. I used to control that thing, like not too often, but yeah, like for a trip or something, like.
Yeah.
well, you could have done that with the pill too. You could skip the whole week on the pill that you're supposed to get your period, and you wouldn't get your period.
Yep,
Oh.
and they do that actually in the army. I have a client who's in the army who said that when they're like on duty or doing what they're like certain things, they require them to be on birth control and skip the period week.
Dang.
Wow, that's crazy.
So one of the girls, my favorite podcast, the host, I follow her on Instagram, and she got married in October, and she was on her story talking about how like a bunch of girls, on IG were recommending to her because she was supposed to be getting her period during the time of the wedding. And she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm so upset. And a bunch of girls were in her DMs like, girl, you got to try this pill. Like, it helps you skip your period. So she ended up getting a prescription from the doctor for that time so she wouldn't have her period.
Dang, what do we do to
Worked.
ourselves?
Yeah, it worked. And she loved it. So she didn't get her period. I'm like, that is a thing. I didn't even know that was a thing.
That is the thing. So here's a fun thing that you could do. You could track your cycle and you'll know when not to have your wedding.
Okay, so
Just so
you
you
do
know.
it in reverse. Yeah, so you plan it around and not just
Block
Yeah.
the days.
okay, and
And
then
I get it, like, okay, maybe if there's a specific date you want because of, whatever, fine. And I mean, it's not like you're getting married every other month, so
right.
whatever. To each their own. I'm really not going to be like, "Ugh, one time it's awful." But if it's literally just one time, fine, do what you got to do, girl. But if it's like every other month you have something going on that you need to not have a period for, it's like, okay,
I
you
can't
just
imagine if I
gotta
did that
shut
now.
up.
My body would hate me because Paul, he always says we'll plan a trip, a vacation, it's a birthday, an anniversary, something, and it'll be my cycle
hmm
every single freaking time.
Always when you have to be in a bikini on like a tropical island or something. Yep, you get your period that whole week. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm fine with that.
hmm
I'm just like, oh, my period. I won't go in the ocean on my bleed days though, because I am afraid of a shark attack. Will that actually happen? I have no idea. I think that's false, but I'm not interested in trying to see if a shark attacks me. So,
Not worth the experiment.
you know.
Okay.
So if I'm on vacation, if I don't go in there like for 2 days, because I don't now I'm consistently only bleeding for 3, maybe 4 days max, and it's very light. Well, not very light, but first day or two is it, and then like 3 and 4 are like just finishing up. So I won't go in the ocean for the first 1 or 2, but catch me in the ocean after that.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I guess the question I would have had for you, Mama, is like timeline. So like, because I feel like I have a pretty, even though the cramps sometimes leading up to the cycle is ridiculous, the actual cycle itself is like 2.5-ish, 3 days. Is there an average timeline on that?
Yeah, so a healthy cycle, we want to see more of like a 3 to 7 day window of that, no more than 7. That's a sign that maybe like high estrogen or something else going on. If it's too low, a sign of too low of either progesterone or estrogen. So we want to see like that 3 to 7. Mine is closer to that 3 of that I would consider. And then also amount of blood loss would be like, I want to say I have it written down in my cycle guide, but I want to say it's like 6 regular tampons throughout not 6. I'll give you guys the real numbers so that you guys have it. My little cycle guide really
Oh,
quick.
sorry, so are you saying you only have your period for 2 days when you get it?
Sometimes it's probably on average 3, but I feel like after, yeah, like right around that third day, I'm like, I don't need this cup anymore. So it's
Yeah.
work. But I will say with my clients now tracking their cycle more, I've never seen anything more than like 5, 6 days. So that's good to know. I haven't at least coached anyone that like
hmm
beyond that, because then I would have been terrible. But it's
Yeah,
good to just know, for
um 2 is like still considered like average. I think I just think it's a little bit more optimal at that 3, but for a while I actually was only having 2 to 3 as well, day 2 to 3. Now I have like day 3 to 4, and that day 3 and 4 is pretty much like I don't need anything. I'm just chilling. I mean, I kind of like I'm a free bleeder anyway. That's too much information. I don't know. I
No, I
only,
am too, 100%.
so yeah, I'm
wait, just
like, okay.
clarification, that means no but what does that mean?
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah,
no tampon, no
let it
nothing.
flow.
Just let it flow.
Oh, a pad, yeah?
No, not
No
for me.
Oh, so you have the specialty undies.
No.
Oh my God, I'm confused.
I mean, I wouldn't say I have a specialty undies, but I wear like the specific my like just a specific few pairs that I have for those days, but
Although
not
Kim
like
does have period panties. Did you guys see that?
I did
Yeah,
not.
so you can bleed in the panties.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
that.
Wait,
Hmm.
but if you don't have anything, how does that? It doesn't get I feel like those first 2 days for me would be a hot mess.
Yeah, well, I
Woke
think
up the
for
other
me,
day and I was like, oh no, Paul, throw these in the washing machine. Like, that was from overnight.
if I'm out somewhere, I will. If I go to the gym or if I'm going out, I will wear something. But since I work from home, I just like can go to the bathroom, or just I could change my underwear or I could just go to the bathroom because I work from home and the bathroom's right there. But if I am going out somewhere, if I go to the gym, I do because I'm just trying to focus on going to the gym. I'm not trying to focus on getting anything anywhere. And if I go out where I'll be like out wearing something nice, then I will also. But usually I'm just home anyway, so.
Yeah, if I wear any light colors
Mhm.
or if I go to yoga, honestly, I never, even when I would just go to the gym like normal and like lift weights, I never did either. But yoga, I do just because I'm like constantly stretching. My legs are up in the air, like people, like my crotch is in everyone's face. Like, so I definitely will throw in a tampon there. And then if I'm going out, like going to dinner with you guys or something, and I'm wearing like a light color, if I'm wearing black, I won't. So
What?
yeah, I literally don't. But like Britt said, like I just go to the bathroom and
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, that's usually when I have it
What?
flowing.
I feel like
And then
yeah,
on
there's
my
no way to control this. It's just
yeah.
I see these videos of like some gals online. I'll never forget, like TikTok. This one girl, this guy comes up to her at the gym and he's like, "Excuse me, I just want to let you know." I'm like, this would be me. I would just be a hot mess. So I will say,
I
dealing
would
with the cup.
know.
Yeah. And so she was just like, thank you. But so that's in my head when I go to the gym. But dealing with the cup when I'm in public, because you're supposed to change it every 12 hours. I will say if I'm traveling or at the airport now, oh my God, there have been some emergency situations where I'm like, how am I going to not only take it out in like this public restroom, but now go to the thing and wash it, go back in the thing. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. I've always like I've played with the idea of even trying a cup before, but I just already know like I will be so uncomfortable with that. And like
really.
even wearing if I do use a tampon now, I'm so uncomfortable. I'm like, no, I
Hmm.
don't like this.
Same.
Um,
I think that's why, yeah, I refrain from using them unless, yeah, those couple instances.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe
Um,
I'll try.
yeah, like if you're just at home, try that one day. Just when you're on one of your work from home days. See how you feel.
See how it goes. All right, ladies, TV.
And your girl Charlie, she has a line. I'm pretty sure because I haven't like the album for the Wuthering Heights has got me in a chokehold, but because the Everything is Romantic song is also on the soundtrack playlist, and I was listening to it, and there's hers, and then there's another remake on it, and I can't remember which one it was, but she says "free bleeding in the autumn rain" or something like that, and I'm like,
No way.
I'm like, yes, I love this song so much now.
I didn't even catch that, and I love that song.
Okay, it's 6 to 10 regular tampons is a normal amount of blood loss, and a heavy would be longer than the 8 days, and then more than 16 regular tampons. So 6 to 10 regular is a normal blood loss amount. Anything more than 16 regular tampons, that's too much. That's a sign that's typically a sign of too much estrogen when you have those heavy bleeds and um, the longer bleeds as well.
Got it,
And
got
then
it.
anything really like less than 2 days, again, like is a sign of low estrogen and progesterone.
Okay, that's good to know.
I just have
Yeah.
a couple ending questions for you, Britt. One is I heard that when girls get off, well, yeah, when girls get off birth control, your hormones are kind of all over the place, that you are not attracted to the same people that you were on your birth control. Is that right? Or
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Yeah, when you're on birth control, you're attracted to a different type of man.
What?
Um,
That's so interesting to
it's
me.
very interesting, but it's again because it's shutting off like your most natural instincts.
Mm.
Um, those hormones that are being produced help you to pick a partner. Your body wants to pick a specific kind of partner. So it's also why we kind of get a little bit more like we become more attractive in the follicular and ovulatory phase because we're trying to attract a partner. And then we are also naturally attracted to a partner we think would make a good father, essentially, or
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So yeah, it is true. I think, I mean, do you feel like you had a different taste in men after you got off your birth control for being on it for so long?
100%. Night and day.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Night and day.
Yep. So yeah, that's a fun one. And
Um,
I'm pretty sure there's something about like our actual pheromones change as well
hmm.
off of the two. So, I mean, they change throughout our cycle, but also like the difference between us producing them when we are ovulating and then not because of the birth control, they're different as well.
That's very interesting. And then one more, well, I have two more questions, but one more is kind of random like this too. Um, I was at work one day and I was talking about how I was having, bad period cramps. And one of my girlfriends says, well, do you masturbate? And I'm like, well, no, like I've been kind of more so in like my celibacy era. And so I'm like, well, no, I haven't lately. And she was like, go home and masturbate. And she's like, your cramps will go away. I'm like, girl, she's like, no, that's literally what I do. She's like, when I have really bad cramps, I masturbate and they go away. I'm like, okay, whatever. So fast forward to like a couple weeks, I got my period and I was having really bad cramps, really bad cramps. I was laying in bed and I'm like, I'm putting CBD oil on my body. I had a little bit of heat on there and I'm like, man, these are just not going away. And then I remember what she said, and I'm like, ugh. And I thought to myself, I'm like, the last thing in the world I want to do is masturbate. Like I'm having, you know what I mean? I'm having these crazy cramps. Like, why would I want to masturbate right now? So,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna masturbate. So I did it, and they went away. And I went to work, and I told her, I'm like, girl, you'll never guess. I did what you said, and I will say they didn't go away completely, but I will say they went from like a 10 to like a 2, like that.
Whoa.
Yeah. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Britt? Or have
So
you?
I don't know the science about that. I do know that's a thing. The only thing I know of is that when you have an orgasm, that is literally causing spasm in that area. And again, that spasm can help just control that the contraction space of that. So I know it can help some, but it actually can also do the opposite for some, where that is kicks off more of like that crampy feeling because your muscles have just spasmed now. And so now like that crampy feeling is there, whereas maybe they didn't even have it before. But then for some who do have them and then they masturbate, it helps to kind of like, and also it's a relaxation thing. Like that is an actual orgasm is very, very healthy for us as women to relax.
Mhm.
It's a very like um for the nervous system. Also, just another little woman tip about orgasm. We should be because if you don't use it, you lose it, unfortunately, as women, as we get older, that tissue or clitoral tissue can atrophy. So I suggest that as well.
Girl, I did
Mhm.
not know that. That's crazy.
I've heard
Yeah, so
about that.
yeah, so just something to keep in mind because I think, you know, it's taboo, of course, but we're allowed to one, please ourselves, and we
Mhm.
probably
Hmm.
do it better than most
Mhm.
people. But um
Not probably, we do.
Yeah.
And then, it's just for the health of our vulva and our clitoris and things like that, the tissue down there as well, keeping blood flow down there too to help that atrophy or prevent atrophy as you age.
Good to know. And then one last thing before we wrap up. What are your thoughts on seed cycling?
I like it. I like it if it's not the only thing you're doing. Um, the purpose of that is every seed has the vitamins and minerals that your body needs for that phase of your cycle, whether it's helping estrogen production or detoxification, or progesterone production and estrogen detoxification in your luteal phase. Um, it's a tablespoon to 1 to 2 tablespoons of each of those seeds. Off the top of my head, flax, chia. Well, chia can be swapped with something else.
Pump-
Sesame seed. What was that?
Pumpkin?
And pumpkin seed, yeah. And then there's one more seed that chia. I don't swap out pumpkin ever. I just eat pumpkin. But chia can be swapped out with something else. Sesame. What did I say? Sesame,
Black.
Sesame, pumpkin, flax,
pumpkin, chia.
those are
I'll
like
get
main
the I'll
seeds.
get the other one, but those are like four
Anise
main.
or anise or something. Anise.
No, um, I'll have to pull that up because they don't it depends who you follow the seed cycling from that will determine that kind of thing, but chia is fine with for what the purpose of it is. And
Sunflower?
then what was that?
Sunflower?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, sunflower, that's the one. Sunflower seed and sesame seed, flax seed, and pumpkin seed. Those are usually like the main ones. And then I also do chia seed. I do chia seed all the time. And I don't seed cycle personally. I eat all these seeds throughout my entire cycle. I think cycling food can get very like difficult for a lot of women who are just busy and like they can't focus on, I need to eat this on this day and this on this day. I'd rather you eat all those seeds throughout your entire cycle. But if it's really like a place where I need to start somewhere, that's a great place to make sure you're getting those nutrients and those minerals and vitamins for each phase of your cycle. So it is great. I do recommend it if you want to get started, but will that be the only thing that helps you? No. It's got to be in conjunction with everything else. But yeah, it's definitely a good aid, a good place to start for sure, especially. Mhm. I wanted to tell you guys about this, and maybe Star might like this especially. I started, I partnered with a fertility tracking device company. It's called Mira, and I pee in a cup every morning and I dip my stick in there and it tracks my LH, my progesterone, and my estrogen across my cycle. And they have another wand that tracks also your FSH, which is great if you are like making sure that you can have a baby or you're, premature ovarian, things like that. So, um, I thought, oh, Star might like that because you and Paul are thinking about that kind of thing, and I know that we were talking about you getting your blood work and like looking at all that stuff. I think it's been great. It tracks the metabolites up. So I don't know if you guys have heard of a Dutch test before.
Yeah.
It's a dried urine sample and it evaluates it based on the urine, which is the metabolites of whatever's processed through your body. So blood test is like right now what's floating around in your bloodstream. Urine and saliva are typically what's being detoxed out of your body essentially. So it tracks it through that way. So it's EG3 and PDG, estradiol metabolite and a progesterone metabolite, and then your LH spike, of course, and then your FSH pulsation signals. Um, and that's been really cool to see, like firsthand to see where my hormones are at every single day is like,
That's kind of
I
wild.
don't know if I told you guys this before, but I'm a little bit of a data freak. So
You
that's why I have all
girl.
the things.
Yeah.
So I'm obsessed with it. So if you guys wanted to see yours, I mean, Fallon, if you wanted to track your hormones and see like how well you're doing just at the comfort of your own home, love it.
100%. And I will tell you, I've been watching you do that on your story, and I got really intrigued. And so I started following them and doing my own research with that company and saved it because I'm like, that's definitely something that I'm going to be doing.
That is
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah,
Look into
it's
it.
super cool. And when I did all the training on it, they go through like all sorts of different people's cycles and all sorts of different like levels and stuff. And I'm like, this is so cool. And um, I recently learned just by looking through the thing that it does it can connect with my Aura Ring. It doesn't, so the Aura Ring doesn't track your actual BBT, in case anyone out there listening is wondering that. This is how I track my cycle, but I first started out tracking my cycle with my BBT for years first, and then I went to this so I knew what my baseline was. So the aura just tracks your up and down from your baseline, so plus or minus degrees, but it does put it into the Mira app as well, so you could see it there. It's not going to give you your BBT there, but you could also put your BBT in there. So you could track all sorts of stuff in there. So if you guys do want that, I have a code that you can use.
Very
And if you
Cool.
want me to keep an eye on it with you, you would be put into my portal and I will be able to help you guys
Love
navigate.
that. That's so
cool. That is such a cool tool.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out too.
I'll send you guys the link to take a look at it, the kit, and then send you guys all that info.
Yeah, please do. Thank you so much, Britt. I love that. Well, if anyone has questions for our girl Britt, feel free to slide into the DMs or leave a comment on Spotify or
Yeah,
YouTube and let us know your thoughts or any concerns you may have about your period or birth control, and our girl can help you. Until next time, ladies.
yeah.
Until next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.